Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Today is Season 4, Episode 33, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, John Keir.
What's going on, everybody?
Today, we're going to be going over the Steelers' dominant win over Cincinnati at home that John was lucky enough to get to go to see the first win of the season. What was the stadium like, man?
You know what? I'll start with the bad first, just because really, it's Heinz Field. It's fantastic. There's really nothing bad about it. I was actually a little surprised at how many empty seats I saw. Now, let me preface this, of course, by saying that the combined records of these teams were 0-3, and it is a Monday night. So I do understand that getting to this game is probably a little more difficult than most. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure attendance numbers for home Monday night football games, like Monday night and Thursday night, are generally lower than the average 1 o'clock games sometimes, just because of families and whatnot. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've noticed, at least for Pittsburgh, that tends to be true the last couple of years. Do you happen to know that?
No, I don't have the numbers on whether Sunday or Monday or Thursday, like the seating stuff, but it would make sense to me. I feel like Monday is like it's a work day, it's a school day, you have work the next day or school the next day. Thursday, same thing. Sunday is a little bit different. Sunday you get to have the day off before at least, but I don't know. I could totally see Monday being like a more dead day to have football games.
See, like I just hadn't really thought about it that much. I guess like maybe an initial blush, I kind of thought maybe this would be, it's a primetime game. You're going to get more people watching, but, then you think about, reality and life and stuff like that. I think it was one of the better games the Steelers played a couple years ago. I think they hosted the Packers on Sunday Night Football. That was the one where Chris Boswell hit a stadium record field goal for the win. That was like the lowest attended game at Heinz Field that year, and it was like a great game. So I guess just going forward, my expectations should have been tempered a little bit. But anyways, that's not to say that, it was empty by any means, but it was just a little less people. Like I saw more empty seats than I thought I would see. That being said, it was quite a raucous crowd for two 0-3 teams, and, the Steelers starting a backup quarterback in his first home start. Barring the first couple drives for the Steelers offense, we were pretty loud the entire time, and I had a couple of crazy fans around, especially one right in front of us, waving his terrible towel. I don't think he was drunk or anything. He was just amped. Dude was going crazy, yelling the whole time. It was awesome. If you haven't been to a game at Heinz Field, I definitely recommend it. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and it really is something. Even when the Steelers, I think at the time, were up like 20-3, and they played Renegade, or maybe it was 27-3. It was in the fourth quarter. The game was over, and the place still went nuts. But obviously, being a Monday night, when the Steelers were, I think it was like 11 minutes left, people started leaving, and by the time the game was over, everyone was gone. Like, there was still game left, but, man, it was a dominant performance. That's at least what it seemed like from where I was watching from. How did it look like from the broadcast view?
Oh, yeah, it definitely seemed like a dominant performance. After, like, those first few drives and that, like, Deontay Johnson fumble, it just seemed like the Steelers had taken control. I guess also after that 4th and 1 failed rush attempt that happened, that was really like the end of where the Bengals were doing anything successful. I felt like it was just a dominant 27-3 win. And it looked like that on TV too. And we got to see the Bengals offensive line get destroyed in like HD.
Well, that's always a beautiful thing to see. And one thing that was kind of bizarre, let's kind of shift to the injury report here. A guy who was injured during the game was Cameron Hayward. I remember seeing him down and thinking, like, oh, man, that's not good to see. And he did return, and oddly enough, he suffered a quadricep injury. He returned, and it felt like he played better once he once he had returned to the game. That was kind of odd to see. Beyond that, just other injuries from the game. Juju Smith-Schuster appeared on the injury report this week with a toe injury. I'm not sure exactly when that happened. And James Conner also suffered an ankle injury during the game. He also came back and played better. So just a few bumps and bruises. Those guys continued to play, though, so I can't think it's too serious. But here we are on Thursday. Those 3 guys have not practiced yet this week.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. The Juju Smith-Schuster one, I actually did remember seeing, but I thought he came back in the game, like you said. He had a slight limp at one point. I thought it was his ankle, though. I thought it wasn't until like after the game that they said it was a toe injury, but yeah, it's still not good. I'm assuming that the Steelers are giving them rest and they're going to be full. At least one of them is going to be full on Friday. I think because it's a technical short week, they're giving them off Wednesday, off Thursday because of the injuries. And then they're going to have them have a full practice on Friday. But we'll be able to tell tomorrow when the final injury report comes out. But that's what I'm banking on. I'm thinking both of them are going to practice in full on Friday. And this was just a precautionary thing since it's a short week.
Now, of course, it is possible that maybe like with an ankle injury, once you take the cleats off, maybe the ankle swells up a bit. But I'm definitely not a doctor, but I'm going to tend to agree with you on this one.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Alrighty, so Austin, a 27-3 game. We already kind of touched on it. Kind of a dominant performance. The first time the Steelers really looked good for the majority of the game, but I think you could make arguments that the offense and defense, or particularly the offense, didn't look up the stuff at least early. So the defense started off the game, and they gave up a few yards on the opening drive. The Bengals got to the Steelers side of the field, but that drive stalled. Ending with the first sack of the game by Devin Bush, and we were just talking about that before the podcast where Bobby Hart forgot what he was supposed to be doing, and Devin Bush came in unblocked. And the Steelers took over, and on the second play of offense, Deontay Johnson fumbles the ball away, and the Bengals are immediately set up in prime position to score. The defense holds in that red zone situation. I don't know if you saw that 3rd and goal. I noticed early on that Mark Barron was kind of having a rough game, at least in terms of the Bengals were going after him. And I know that that's a tough catch, but I think Tyler Eifert should have had a touchdown there.
Oh, yeah. It seemed like a mismatch, and it hit him in the hands. And the announcers were even saying it. The announcers were saying, like, that's one Tyler Eifert's going to want back, and when it hits you in both your hands, you just got to make that catch. Mark Barron did get a little bit lucky, but to be fair, Mark Barron also had a better day going forward from, like, that point. He got a little bit better after that.
Yeah, so I guess we can get a little bit more into Barron's play a little bit later, but we were just talking about the offense. It was taking it took a few drives to get going. Their following drive, they got to the Cincinnati side of the field, and then the Steelers' kryptonite, 3rd down, reared its ugly head. The Steelers came in with a big package from the 42 on a 3rd and 1. Benny Snell got stuffed, and then the Steelers decided to do it again, this time with James Conner, and he got stuffed for no gain as well. So the Steelers burned the timeout in the process of doing that and got nothing out of it. So you've got a fumble on your first drive, and then you're turning it over on downs on your second drive, and it looked like it was going to be a long day. And then the 3rd drive, you ended up only running 7 plays and 33 yards. Just not a whole lot going on. I mean, it's just... It felt like more of the same. I felt like the offensive line was struggling, and that was the biggest takeaway from those early drives that changed, starting with the Steelers' 4th drive.
Oh, 100%. The offensive line was not playing well, at least in the beginning. They were really, really struggling, and you really saw it on that 4th and 1 where Connor didn't even have a chance at that. It was really, really rough. The line immediately folded. And he got tackled from behind. That's how bad it was. There wasn't a guy to block an incoming guy on the outside. It was just really, really rough there. And yeah, honestly, at this point in the game, I'm thinking, wow, this offense really does suck. Like, this offense is really this bad. I was like ready to. I wasn't like 100% sold on that yet, but like after like seeing how bad the Bengals defense was ranked in like all categories, it's like, oh no, this is going to be such a long day, like you said.
So the Steelers were able to get some solid field position battle going here. The Steelers pinned the Bengals down at their own 10-yard line after another solid punt by Jordan Berry, and they forced the Bengals backwards after a false start penalty, and they get the ball back at the Bengals' 46-yard line. And it's here we got to actually see some adjustments made by Randy Fichtner and the Steelers offense. And we saw some new creative ways to get the ground game, or rather an extension of the ground game, going. So we saw a lot of this jet action instead of the straight-up handoffs. We were seeing some different formations. We were seeing the Wildcat for the first time. The Steelers started, opening up that bag of tricks, and it worked, starting with a 46-yard touchdown drive. And really the offense started clicking from that point on. They finished with 10 points in the first half, but that was really the name of the game for those last two drives in the first half. We saw a lot of that jet action. We saw Wildcat. We saw Connor going in motion. We saw Deontay Johnson going in motion. Just talk to me a little bit about what you thought about the offense that we saw finally being able to produce a little bit.
I really liked it. I really liked that Fichtner's creativity in this regard, that if you can't establish the run in a typical way, he'll make these interesting little things where Jalen Samuels getting a snap directly, and he can choose to run up the middle or hand it off on these like jet sweeps and stuff. And I really liked the tap passes. I mean, the tap pass didn't happen yet at this time, at least I don't think. Yeah, no, not yet. But there's a few tap passes in this game. I just really like that I don't know what he saw in the Bengals tape, but he really exposed it, I guess, because the Steelers have been trying to like run on the outsides a lot, and I've been egging on them because it's not like what they do best. But in this game, they really, really gave it to the Bengals running across the field onto the outside, and I really liked the creativity. I was very happy with it. I was very happy that there was obvious adjustments made, and obvious like there was a lot of thought put into this, because you don't just run the Wildcat like 6 times. It's usually like just a trick play, little gimmicky that you do like once just to maybe try and throw a defense off. But it was being used in a smart way in this game. It was being used effectively, and I was happy with that.
I think the final total was something like 7 snaps out of the Wildcat or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was something. I think it was 7 or 6, yeah.
That was obviously something that was designed by Randy Fichtner in the game plan here. And I think those tap passes are very interesting. Samuels had 3 of them. They went as passes. I think Rudolph had a handful of them as well. A couple went to Deontay Johnson. And they were pretty effective. So they don't technically go in as rushes, but the passes go maybe, a foot in the air before they're caught. So, you look at Jalen Samuels' 31 yards passing, that's really almost sort of like running. So you talk about people who are harping on the Steelers for still not having a good yards per carry average, only 25 for 66 yards at the end of the day. Yeah, that's not a great total, but my 2 arguments are, one, Jalen Samuels had a 2-yard touchdown in this game, and when you have 2 yards to go, what's the longest run you could have?
Exactly. It's going to be 2 yards.
So there's that, plus, again, the 31 yards from Samuels right there. That's really rushing yards if you want to. I mean, you call it passing yards because the ball went forward like an inch or 2, but that's essentially running. So if you add those plays on, that really balances out the average there. So I really liked what I saw, again, from the creativity that we saw from this offense. And again, even though the offensive line wasn't blocking really well in terms of traditional running, we have to think that the Bengals were trying to stop them in that sense. So maybe they were selling out in that aspect in this Wildcat. Misdirection type of offense is exactly what the Steelers needed on the ground, and it worked. And in terms of Rudolph playing, about as efficient as you could be. He only threw 4 incomplete passes on 28 attempts, had just under 230 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. His QBR on the day was 87.4, which is 100 is the best you could get. His was really up there, and he didn't have to do a whole lot, and I think that's exactly by design. The Steelers didn't want to throw a ton at him in this game.
Yeah, and I like that game plan. I mean, he finished with a very effective 24 for 28 in passing, and it was because there was these little like dump offs. It's like the Tom Brady offense as of late, which I subscribe to. I like it for now because it's working. Like, if it's working now, they learned how to use Jalen Samuels this week. That was probably one of the biggest differences going into this week. Last week, 0 snaps for Jalen Samuels, 0 snaps for Zach Banner. This week, completely flipped the script. Jalen Samuels was almost probably more part of the game plan than almost probably James Conner was. And it's just, I really like that. And like you said, but going back to Mason Rudolph here, Mason Rudolph did what he was asked to do. I saw him getting a lot of hate on Twitter for it being dink and dunk offense and stuff, but I mean, this is what he was asked to do. He did it effectively, and he came out with a pretty convincing win and pretty solid stats from it, even if it was just dink and dunk. So, I mean, I was happy with Mason Rudolph's play in this game.
And look, what we were looking for more than anything was improvement. We saw that in droves on Monday, and really it started and ended with those running backs, whether it was, running the ball, catching those short little jet passes, or running out of the Wildcat, or specifically catching the ball as a safety valve, a leak out option for Mason Rudolph. Those guys were most effective, Connor and Samuels, as receiving options as well. It's the simple stuff. People forget. Now, again, 2004 comparisons, I get it. But it is a different era. But Ben Roethlisberger didn't have a 300-yard passing game until his 12th or 13th start or something like that. It was towards the end of the year or something like that. You're not going to – I get it, because sometimes you'll see, Patrick Mahomes lit it up in his first few starts. But, Mason Rudolph, the Steelers don't want to throw a ton at him. And in this game, they had a perfect game plan for him. And, next week he'll probably be asked to do more. But in this game, I think the Steelers did exactly what they felt like they needed to do. They didn't want to expose too much to him. And they were talented enough as a group to overcome, maybe a somewhat limited game plan from the quarterback. But, I mean, it worked. I can't argue with the fact that it worked, And that's the biggest thing, is that we finally have a cohesive unit on offense that worked in unison for the majority of the game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward to see if they can keep this up, because they can't keep running the Wildcat every game. It's gimmicky, and it's not going to work in every situation. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we never see the Wildcat. We only see it once more for the entire year. I really wouldn't be surprised. But it's going to be interesting going forward to see if the offense could keep up what they were doing, if they're going to be able to keep up the dink and dunk offense, or if a team is going to be able to stop it. Because this defense wasn't the hardest defense to go against. They have a pretty solid defensive line, and their defensive backs aren't the worst. William Jackson left with an injury in this game at one point. And that really leaves just Jesse Bates. But their linebackers are trash. So the short field really worked to the Steelers' advantage in this game, in the passing game. So, like I said, it's just gonna be interesting going forward to see against better units with better inside linebacking cores and outside linebacker cores. That could maybe help with those short passing situations.
So, I guess, and we'll have plenty of time to get into this later, but, I think that basically the thing to take away from it, from what Mike Tomlin was saying, is that it is, the Wildcat is a gimmicky thing, and, going forward, here's something that I was asked. I was talking about this with my uncle. He was saying that he had kind of wished that the Steelers had kind of maybe not used the Wildcat this week and instead used it next week against the Ravens, because now the Ravens have tape on it. And while I initially agreed with him, my thinking now is the Steelers needed this game more than anything. You have to have this game. So you need this, as much as you don't want to, you need to sell out to win this game, A. And B, I feel like the Ravens probably would know how to stop that, considering Lamar Jackson is their quarterback. I feel like that's something that their defense would probably be ready to stop.
Yeah, it's going to be something they're used to in practice. It's going to be something that they're used to, the mobility that a guy can bust out and run it from just really short situations. So I do think it wouldn't have worked against Baltimore. And that's why I'm saying I don't think it's going to come out maybe once more for the entire year. It's just I don't think most teams are going to be able to stop it. Most teams have a competent at least one competent linebacker that could probably do it, or their defensive line is going to get there and blow it up. Something like that.
All right, let's flip to the other side of the ball. The Bengals only had 3 drives that went longer than 33 yards. The first one was a 33-yard drive that ended in a punt. Their second longest drive was a 46-yard 9-play drive that ended in a fumble. We'll get to that in a minute. And the last one was a 16th play, 67-yard drive that ended in an interception. So you take out that fumble by Deontay Johnson, and the Steelers likely pitch a shutout here. So from that point on, after giving up the field goal, the Steelers' next two defensive drives yielded a -6 yards on 6 plays. And when the Bengals finally had some life after the Steelers scored their first touchdown of the game, the Bengals were moving the ball. They got to the Steelers' 18-yard line, and that was probably, honestly, the turning point of the game with just under 6 minutes to go. Probably the highest quality sack of Bud Dupree's career, converting a little speed to power with great speed off the edge, a strip sack of Andy Dalton, and T.J. Watt's right there to pick up the loose change. And from that point on, the Bengals never really had a chance.
Yeah, this may have been Bud Dupree's best game of his career. I mean, there's a few that I think of, like I think of the Bucs game last year where he recorded his first pick six in any level of football ever, which is pretty big. But this was probably Bud Dupree's most complete game. I'll put it that way. He had 6 tackles. He had that great strip sack. I mean, it was a good game for Bud Dupree and really the whole defense. I mean, it's when you get 2 turnovers and 8 sacks, like it's hard to really point at any problems with the defense here because there wasn't. You gave up 3 points. They did exactly what they needed to do in this game. They came and this is a really promising because despite the Bengals being a bad team overall, what they were good at was offense. They had a really solid passing offense, and what we saw here is that they got shut down. 8 sacks. And then 2 turnovers on passing downs. It's just this is really promising for the Steelers defense going forward. And you know what? We might be entering a time where the Steelers defense is going to be the part that carries the team for the most part. I mean, going forward because it's just they've been doing so well, and this was good for me. The offense I'm not sold on, but the defense coming after these past 2 games, I feel really good about. I feel really good about the defense going forward and do feel like, despite the numbers, like they're statistically not a good unit. I actually haven't checked since the Bengals game. It might have now been fixed so that they're not like completely like almost in last. But coming into this game, they were like ranked 28th, 29th, and like 30th in points against and stuff. But I really think that the Steelers defense is a pretty good unit right now.
Yeah, and let's talk about the Steelers' defense right now. They played against the Patriots in Foxborough and got shredded. Okay. Week 2, they gave up a ton of second-half yards and points to Russell Wilson, a future Hall of Fame quarterback at home. That was the game, of course, where Ben Roethlisberger injured his elbow and was lost for the season, and the offense really didn't help the defense that much. The defense still got 2 turnovers and 4 sacks in that game. We already know the 5 turnovers 2 weeks ago. And then 2 more turnovers and 8 sacks this week. The Steelers had, let's be honest, they had some tough assignments those first 3 weeks. And, they gave up more points than they should have and more yards, but it's not like they were coming away empty-handed. Besides the Patriots game, they came away with multiple turnovers in weeks 2 and 3. You look at their next upcoming schedule, you've got Lamar Jackson, Phillip Rivers, whoever the Miami quarterback is, Jacoby Brissett, Jared Goff right now, who doesn't look great, Baker Mayfield, who doesn't look great. You've got the Bengals again. So, I mean, going into December, the best quarterbacks you're looking at are either Jared Goff, Phillip Rivers, Lamar Jackson, or Jacoby Brissett. And no offense to those guys, but they're not as great as Tom Brady and Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo with the great offensive scheme. I think the Steelers' defense, for the crap that we did give it, it was warranted. But they may be having a solid chance to come into their own after a rough start early on in the year. And like we said before, the defense was going to have to carry the team more than the offense. But now we're finally seeing that they might be able to do that. Now, of course, this all depends on them being able to do it next week. Otherwise, the season's pretty much over. But it's encouraging to see is what we're getting at.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, I think the different... I can't say this yet because last year the Steelers had about 7 turnovers through this point as well, but they're getting turnovers this year, and it feels like they're doing it better. I thought that they should get 2 turnovers against the Bengals. I would have been happy with 1, but they're good enough to get 2, and that's what they did. They went in there and played as good as they should have, got 2 turnovers, including a game-sealing interception. I mean, the game was actually over at that time, but you know what I mean. They didn't break at the end and give up 7 extra points and just let the Bengals get their pity points. I was just really happy with this unit as a whole. in this game.
We wouldn't be saying the same thing about this defense if it was 27-10, even though that's a garbage time touchdown. The way that they were able to stamp that performance with an interception at the end was really valuable. And I know that I think 3 of those turnovers that they forced against the 49ers were fluky, but I think all the rest of their turnovers this year have been pretty spot on forced. And I mean, you'll take them whenever you can get them.
Exactly, man. A turnover's a turnover. It don't matter how it comes.
That defensive line, really the front 5, I guess, even with Dupree, who hasn't been, he's not the best, of course, but he's been a solid run defender, and he showed, again, maybe his best game ever this week. That front 5 is really good, and Devin Bush had an outstanding game, too, by the way. He's really starting to come into his own, and even though Mark Barron started slow, he started to play better, and with Vince Williams coming back healthy this week, it looks like the Steelers' front 7 may actually finally be that dominant force that we thought it could be.
Yeah, we just saw them do 8 sacks, obviously, without a fully healthy front 7, and now you're getting Vince Williams back. You're going to be able to do certain packages again where you just rotate Mark Barron in and stuff. It's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good, and I'm really hoping for some good stuff against the Ravens next week. I'm really excited for the Ravens game, actually. I have a little bit better of a lease on the Steelers season. I think that the Ravens are exactly what I think they're exactly who we thought they are. I don't know. At least I did. I know I'm getting ahead of myself because this isn't the preview episode for the Ravens. This is the recap for the Bengals. So, but I'm just looking forward. I'm just kind of excited now. Something that this is like kind of off the topic of football, but something I wanted to talk about is that there's so much different energy after a win. Like, I forgot how like good it actually felt to get a win, even if it was against a trash team. Like, my whole like lease on life changed after this game. I was like, everything's great, everything's gonna be fine and stuff. And it's just like after a win, everything feels a little bit better.
Sure does, man. That's I'm not gonna dispute that at all. So back to the game for now. The defense, as we know, another dominant performance. The back end also had a solid game. I don't even remember really seeing Terrell Edmonds or Mika Fitzpatrick having to make many tackles. Those guys only had 4 apiece. Mike Hilton was making plays again, looking like the guy we saw from 2016, and he had 2 passes defensed as well. And Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden were pretty solid in coverage. They both had pass interference calls. But besides that, it was pretty much lock-up coverage for those guys all day long. I mean, Tyler Boyd, their best receiver, had 3 catches for 33 yards. John Ross didn't catch any deep passes. It was a good game all around.
Yeah, man, they had to force it to Auden Tate for the most part. Like, that was their leading receiver because John Ross I was impressed with Tyler Boyd. I thought Tyler Boyd was going to be a problem in this game, because I thought they were going to have to respect John Ross's deep ball a little bit too much, and I was going to leave Tyler Boyd, who's been the dink and dunk guy for them, to destroy the Steelers underneath, but it just didn't happen. He had 1 13-yard pass caught against, I believe, Nelson, and that was really it. Finished with the 3 for 33, and it wasn't. He didn't do that good, and I was happy. I mean, like you said, the back end was just sound in this game. It was one of the first games in this year that I didn't see like a mistake from Terrell Edmonds, Minka Fitzpatrick. Honestly, in a good way, I didn't even hear his name. So when I saw that he finished with 4 tackles, I was like, I didn't even remember a single one of those tackles, and 2 were solo. So I was like, well, what happened? Like, when did he even show up? Like, in like a good way though, like because he wasn't like busting coverages or anything. It was just the safeties were good, the cornerbacks were pretty solid in this game. And like you said, Mike Hilton was a monster. He returned to form. He had those 2 pass breakups. One was really impressive. He was swatted it, and I was happy with all their play in this game as well.
A couple more things about the offense I wanted to go back to. What do you think about the performances of, well, I know we talked a little bit about Deontay Johnson, but, he had the biggest play of the game. And the last guy I wanted to touch on was Nick Vannett, who came over from Seattle. Didn't play a ton of snaps. They mixed in a lot of Zach Banner, but he had 2 big catches in this game, and an impressive one where he worked back for the ball on the scramble drill with Rudolph.
Oh, he reminds me of Jesse James so much. It was exactly what the Steelers needed, honestly, out of a tight end. never even considered him when looking at tight ends the Steelers could have traded for. But those 2 catches were so critical. Both gave a first down. Both were what Jesse James was. He wasn't a guy that would get you a crazy amount of catches every game. I mean, he had that one game against Cleveland 2 years ago now, or was it last year? I'm all messed up. Where he had like 144 yards and stuff. But what Jesse James was good at was being reliable and being there. And this is what Vanette just reminded me of it. And he only had was 2 catches, but that was enough. I felt happy with that because that was more than Xavier Grimble has done through the first 3 games. Like, I was literally already happier with Vanette than I had been with Grimble because as I went over like 8 times, I never thought Xavier Grimble was good enough to be a number 2. I didn't even think Xavier Grimble was good enough to be a number 3. I thought Bucky Hodges would dethrone him. But now with Vanette, I feel like the Steelers have plugged that hole that Jesse James left that maybe they didn't realize was as big as it was. But and now I feel good with Vance coming back and Nick Vanette there. I feel really good with 2 tight end sets. I feel good with Vance gets hurt again. It's nice. It's nice having this luxury. If they could just extend him, it'd be worth the 5th round pick. It's gonna be tough because the Steelers are in negative salary cap for next year right now. But
I'd try to do everything I can to re-sign him because if you get him for just 12 games and then he walks, that really sucks.
Yeah, it really does.
You know what else is a nice luxury is having Chris Boswell right now. Dude is still perfect on the year, going 5 for 5 on his kicks again. And Jordan Berry only had 2 punts. One was a touchback, but he averaged 49.5 yards on his punts again. So more good stuff from the special teamers, in particular the specialists Berry and Boswell again.
Someone I wanted to highlight on special teams was Ulysses Gilbert. He only had 1 tackle in this entire game, but it was such a big tackle. There was a lot of open space between him and a returner, like later-ish in the game, and he was able to close that gap and tackle the guy to get him down at the 25 when it probably could have gotten to like the 32 or 34. It's a really good tackle, and I remember texting you about it because I was happy. And also something else I wanted to point out, it's more going back to defense, but it does apply to special teams as well. Something I was surprised to see. So just for context, I was at work during this game. I was still watching the game anyway because I'm a delinquent. But regardless, I didn't get to see the inactives for the game because I couldn't get on Twitter and stuff, and that's usually where I get them. And I didn't see it on the actual showing who was inactive. So when I'm out there seeing 51 on defense, I'm like, who even is that guy? I was like, I didn't even realize. And I literally remember texting John as well for that. I was like, do you know that Jaron Elliott is out there and playing meaningful defensive snaps? I was like, because the game wasn't even gone yet. I'm pretty sure it was before the game was even at 20-3. I was like, what is this man doing out here? I was like, I didn't even realize he was active for the game, and then I'm seeing him on defense. I was like, what? This is so weird. It was just weird to watch.
I legit forgot that he was on the roster. I was like, wait, isn't he on the practice squad?
Yeah, dude, it was just weird, and I just wanted to point that out as well, because I think he played some special team snaps as well. I would expect him to if he was going to be active for this game. He's not usually a defensive starter, but, it was interesting that he got a few snaps to give some of the starters some few snaps off.
Oh, one other thing. Speaking of special teams, Johnny Holton, I guess this is offense, though. What do you think about that offensive pass interference?
Oh, that was so stupid. It was really, really dumb. I thought it should have been reversed, but I think everyone's just confused. I think they need to take away that what's the wording? Clear and
Obvious.
Clear and obvious, because none of the ones that was not clear and obvious. That was not him pushing off. It literally saw that it just looked like he extended his arm, and if extending an arm is pushing off, I don't know, man. It was really, really dumb. Johnny Holton probably had his best special teams day so far of his time with the Steelers. I actually saw him get to a returner and cause him to call for a fair catch, which was really good for him. But yeah, that call against Johnny Holton was really stupid, and I love, everyone knows I love harping on Johnny Holton, but that was a bad call.
Any further thoughts on this game before we can wrap this one up?
No. I think we are set. I felt like I had one more thing to say, but I can't remember it now. So we're going to say we're set.
All right. Well, if you remember it, certainly feel free to interject. Let's move forward. The Steelers now 1-3. On to Ravens week. The Steelers released tight end. It's Alize, right?
Yeah, Alize.
Alize Mack from Notre Dame, one of the guys you looked at from the practice squad. And they signed quarterback Taron Christian, I believe is how you say it.
I'm gonna go with Christian. I don't know. I feel like it's just Christian. Actually, I don't know. I actually have never heard his name being said.
Well, hopefully, I'm sure we'll hear it at some point. But for now I'll go with Taron Christian. Christian is a rookie from South Dakota State University, and he spent some time previously with the Cowboys in the offseason and preseason after going undrafted. He had a decorated college career as a dual-threat quarterback, and after learning that he has a sub-4.5 40-yard dash time, I'm going to assume that he's going to be acting as the Lamar Jackson clone, if you will, for the scout team this week. So it might only be a temporary thing, but, probably a smart move by the team, and nice to have another guy around just to, maybe help out with stuff like that. Maybe we'll see him back at some point.
Yeah, I do like this. I think this was a smart move. I mean, I'm sad to see Alize Mack go because I really liked him, but he could come back basically after this week, essentially, if unless Christian shows something here that having 4 quarterbacks with 2 on the practice squad probably isn't gonna last for long. Like, this is probably only a Ravens week thing, like I said, unless he proves himself. But I do like it because you get that like Lamar Jackson experience where you got a guy that isn't the most accurate, but does have an arm where he can throw, and he's going to be mobile, so he could get out the pocket, and you have to. It lets the defense learn how to respect that and get around that, and how Keith Butler can plan around it. So I do like the move for the week.
And for people saying that like he's not enough like Lamar Jackson, like give me a break, man. That's the whole point of these practice squad players is to be the scout team. Going into Super Bowl 43, former Steelers quarterback, then with the Arizona Cardinals, Brian St. Pierre, was the scout team Ben Roethlisberger for the Arizona Cardinals going into Super Bowl 43. He's not Ben Roethlisberger, obviously, but I mean, you get guys that can at least play in a similar style. No one is Lamar Jackson. So you just get an athletic guy, a former dual threat quarterback, a guy that can throw it long, and that's your best option to at least prepare for Lamar Jackson. Obviously, the real thing is going to be better than what you see in practice. Otherwise, Christian would be on an NFL team, on an active roster. So I don't want to see people complaining about that. This was a smart move.
Exactly. It's a practice squad guy. Like, what do they expect? You're going to get actual Lamar Jackson to come on the practice squad? Like, I don't know what they're expecting there.
So we'll obviously monitor that. Maybe he'll, if he plays, practices well, maybe he'll unseat Paxton Lynch, and then they'll bring back Alize Mack. At least I would hope, but we'll see. Elsewhere, Steelers offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner just heaped a ton of praise on him for this week's game, but he's made it clear that he's not a fan of quarterback sneaks, and we've seen that the Steelers haven't attempted one since the Jaguars game last year. He didn't call one in the 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 situation last week. And in the past, he cited, quote, "There's a lot of stuff going on in piles, and let the truth be known, if we can't hand it to one of our backs and we can't block, we didn't deserve to win that down," end quote. So, what are your thoughts on this kind of philosophy and thoughts regarding quarterback sneaks? Because quarterback sneaks in these situations, mind you, yield the first down on a little over 80%, while running back handoffs get the first down in these situations less than 70% of the time.
I think it's dumb. I think it's being taken out of context, but the context he means it in is still dumb. I think that the context he means it in is that it's dangerous for the quarterback, which is really stupid as well. You've seen like Tom Brady do it for 20 years, and not a single time has Tom Brady been hurt on a quarterback sneak play. Because that's what I feel like he's saying with like there's a lot going on in the pile and stuff. He feels like the quarterback's going to be hit. He's like guaranteed to be hit or something like that. But it's just stupid. It's a contact sport and it's about a yard. I literally looked it up because I was curious. I was trying to find like a quarterback that's been hurt on a quarterback sneak, and I found one quarterback. I forget who it is. It was an NFL quarterback. But, like, I was looking for a trend maybe. Maybe there was reason to believe that, I don't know, quarterback sneak is dangerous. And even though it's a high percentage play where you could get it to 80% of the time, that there's a high percentage of the time that it hurts quarterbacks. It doesn't. It really doesn't. There's, at least that I can find. If someone could find information...
I can actually answer that for you.
Yeah?
The reason why the Steelers don't, or at least why they've been so hesitant to, is because in the 2008 season, Ben Roethlisberger separated his shoulder in the season opener, and then a couple months later on a Monday night in Washington, he ran a quarterback sneak at the goal line, scored a touchdown, but got hit in the shoulder and left the game. That is why we don't see that anymore.
That is is quite the definition of living in your fears. I'm pretty sure that's literally next to the if you look up what living in your fears means, that's literally probably right next to it in the, I don't know, whatever you're looking this up in.
So, I mean, I guess I can't say that that's exactly why, but I mean, come on. That has to be why that is the case. And I get what you're saying where, like, it's probably a little overblown, but I just, like, the logic makes sense if you have stuff supporting it. There's not anything supporting this, especially when you consider the fact that the Steelers have been ass at getting these first downs on third and fourth and short this year. This is incredibly stupid and stubborn, and it makes me lose faith in a guy that I already didn't have much faith in.
Yeah, man, it's pretty rough. Like, there's such a low chance to get hurt. Like, you could get hurt on any play, and why are you just gonna not put that one in because of one thing that happened in 2008? I mean, come on. Like, I don't know. I feel like Mason Rudolph should be allowed to do it, and especially with how they've done in short yardage situations like that. Like, we saw James Conner get stuffed in this game on 4th and 1. They ran, twice. We saw him get stuffed twice in a row, on 3rd and 1 and then on 4th and 1. Like, come on now. Like, you're telling me that he couldn't have quarterback sneaked that for 1 yard? You were really that afraid of getting him hurt?
Oh, not to mention, actually, one of those plays was Benny Snell. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that it didn't matter which running back was carrying the ball; it wasn't working. And the worst part about this all is you've now, unless if you're trying to play an elaborate game here, you've just told every defense you play the rest of the year, we're not going to run quarterback sneaks. Don't defend it because we're not going to bother.
What if this is a high IQ play, and next game he runs a quarterback sneak? High IQ. It's a high IQ play.
That's something I'd expect from Todd Haley, not from Randy Fichtner.
Yeah, probably not. Right.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see it.
Oh, man.
All right, so week 4, week 4 in the books in the NFL season. Shall we go over the action, if you will? And we already touched on Thursday night, obviously, so we can just surpass that.
Yes, sir. So, Sunday at 1 p.m. we had the Titans at the Falcons. The Titans ended up winning this one pretty heftily, honestly. I thought that the Titans had control of that the entire game. They won 24-10. Atlanta just doesn't look good, if I'm being honest with you. They're just not very great. I mean, they don't have a run game, which is really bad for them. Devontae Freeman has not been good at all. He was 12 for 28 in that game, and they forced Matt Ryan to throw that entire game. He was 35 for 53 for 397 yards, and then the offensive line was all banged up. I'm pretty sure one of their rookies went down, and they gave up 5 sacks for 33 yards in that game. Just not a good game at all. And I mean, you look at it, it's just the Titans didn't really even do that much. It's just they were more effective. Like, Derrick Henry wasn't the best runner in this game. He was actually pretty solid, but like still a sub 4 yards a carry. AJ Brown went off. He had three receptions for 94 yards, and 2 of those being touchdowns with a long 55. But the Titans just really controlled this game.
Yeah, I have suffered from having watched only one Falcons game this year, for the most part, and that was their one win. So I figured, at home they'll be okay, but I still don't know what the Titans are. I guess I'm never going to know. And I now am not that I was ever on the Falcons bandwagon, but I'm done with that team. I'm very dissatisfied with what this performance brought.
Yeah, they're a very bad team. Following that was Patriots at Bills. Very good game. I mean, not for quarterback play, but it's kind of crazy. Buffalo would have won if not for not a fluke special teams play where the New England Patriots scored a touchdown when they blocked a punt. That was the only. I'm sorry. Was it? Yeah, I believe it was New England's only touchdown of the game. No, I'm sorry. Brandon Bolden got a touchdown as well.
But it was their second touchdown.
Yeah. Regardless, if they don't score that touchdown, the Bills probably win this game. I mean, Josh Allen didn't look good at all, and then Matt Barkley actually probably looked better. But Barkley threw an interception at the end that ended it, but it was really close. And you really think of it, if you really take away that punt block touchdown, the Bills probably would have taken a field goal instead of rushing 4 times at the 1 yard line, which I made sense at the time. I mean, Josh Allen just got hurt. Matt Barkley's in. You don't know if you're going to get back in that situation again. So I fully approved of them going for it on 4th and down instead of taking the field goal at the time. But if it was with New England up, so this could have been so different. I was very impressed with the Bills. I thought that the Bills are going to be. I didn't think the Bills are a bad team, but I thought they were going to be a little bit more exposed here, and I thought Patriots were going to look better. But they played really well, and that Bills defense is 100% underrated. It's real and underrated. That I was very impressed with all of them. But yeah, man, what did you see from that game?
Well, if they don't turn the ball over 3 times and they don't give up that blocked punt, they actually probably win this game handily.
Yeah, exactly. They had 4 turnovers, 4 interceptions at that. Oof.
I would, it kind of reminds me a lot of that game in Buffalo on Monday night last year, but Derek Anderson was starting and the Bills' offense was even worse. That game ended up being like 23-6, but it was a lot closer than the score indicated. I felt like it was not a carbon copy, but another similar performance. Again, that Bills defense is real, and that's not going to be a good. If Josh Allen can figure it out, not turn the ball over whenever he comes back, that's going to be a good team. It is a good team.
Yeah, man, I agree. Now, very surprising of the week, we have the Browns in Baltimore embarrassing them. The Browns won 40-25. Nick Chubb ran for the longest touchdown of the year so far, a rushing touchdown, I should say, with an 88-yard touchdown. Were you able to see this game?
I did watch a good amount of it, and I just want to go on the record and say that I wish you hadn't told me the Browns' top 2 cornerbacks were out, because I had picked them before that, and then I changed my pick hours beforehand when you told me that had happened. So if you had just not told me, I would have been perfect. But no, I didn't see this coming. I thought it was going to be a close game, but something's wrong with that Ravens defense. And for 2 weeks in a row now, they've given up 500 yards of offense. That's never happened in their team's history. And maybe the Browns are getting hot, maybe the Ravens are getting cold, but the Ravens really haven't looked right since their Week 1 win over the Dolphins, at least not on offense.
Yeah, man. I can't believe I was ready to say that I was going to change my opinion on Lamar Jackson. My opinion on Lamar Jackson is he's okay. I was going to say he was good. He is not. He is okay. He's not... I'm mad at myself because I watched Lamar Jackson last year and saw nothing, and this year I saw him ball out against Miami and was like, oh yeah, he's good now. No, he's not. He balled out against Miami, and I saw him get exposed in this game, and he should have done poorly last week too. I mean, he did do poorly last week, but I mean, he should have had like 2 interceptions. He got lucky. I think I talked about this last time, but he got those lucky like balls delivered straight from Jesus where he just heaved it up and said, I think Willie Snead or Marquise Brown is down there, and it just magically gets caught. Like that would never happen for any other team. And in this game, he got a 50-yard garbage time touchdown to Willie Snead. So he finished with 50 more yards and an extra touchdown to pad his stats. Lamar Jackson is just an okay quarterback, and this offense isn't that good. The whole Ravens team isn't that good. I'm not willing to say that. I still like Mark Ingram. I still like Gus Edwards. I've been a Mark Andrews fan as of late, but their team isn't very good. I think, and I think the Browns kind of exposed that. I think that we're going to see that. It's also part of the reason why I'm excited for next week. 2 weeks ago, the Ravens game looked, after the 49ers game, the Ravens game looked like, oh, geez, the Steelers are probably going to get blown out here. But like now it's like almost a totally different outlook for me. Just the Ravens don't look that good. But anyway, after that, another surprising game. If the refs weren't so bad, the Chiefs wouldn't have won, but the Chiefs did win 34-30. They did not cover in this game, and we both got that wrong. I thought the Chiefs were going to blow them out. The Lions didn't even have Darius Slay. It was just interesting. I didn't think Matt Stafford would be able to have a arms race with Patrick Mahomes, but he did it. And like I said, the refs didn't give it to the Lions in this game. Lions win this pretty good. There's a lot of bad calls on the Lions. A missed face mask. They took away Kenny Galladay's first touchdown. It's just a lot of bad things happened to the Lions in this game. It was unfair.
Oh, Lord. I'm sorry to interject, but did you see, are you watching the Thursday night game right now?
I actually am not. I don't even know what's happening.
On a 4th and goal, down 29-24, the Seahawks have the ball. Russell Wilson scrambles and finds a wide-open Chris Carson, and he literally, he's wide open for the go-ahead touchdown, and it glances off his hands. And, in that one moment, you're like, I can't believe he just dropped that, and he's able to reel it back in. He nearly just dropped that game.
Oh, Lord, dude. I can't...
They're going for 2 with 2:28 left to go, up by 1.
Oof.
This is huge for us because I picked the Seahawks to win by 2 points, and you picked the Rams to win or lose by 1 point.
Okay, yeah, so I had to hope that they missed this, really, for everything. Actually,
here's the 2-pointer, and, DK Metcalf dropped it in the end zone.
Oof. Okay, now I need the Rams to not drive downfield to be right, get a field goal or something stupid. But anyway.
Well, actually, no, you're fine. If the Rams win, you're fine, remember?
Oh, I'm stupid. Dude, I'm thinking, for some reason, I'm thinking the Rams are down.
The way we used to do it, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Oh, so, yeah, the Chiefs-Lions. I felt like this game was going to be a little closer than everyone was thinking, but I still went with what felt like the safe pick in the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes, but no passing touchdowns for Mahomes, a long 100-yard fumble return for Bashaud Breeland. I don't really think that Chiefs defense is really any different from what it was last year. They're going to hemorrhage points, and that just means Patrick Mahomes is going to continue padding his stats.
Yeah. I think that I disagree a little bit. I feel like they're a little better, but I mean they lost Nelson, which is was one of their better cornerbacks, and replaced him with the Honey Badger, and they lost Justin Houston, which they didn't really replace with anyone. I guess Frank Clark, but so they are basically the same. They made lateral moves for the most part. But anyhow, oh no, my internet just crashed. I don't know. Not entirely, but the site crashed. But regardless, Raiders at Colts.
You want me to take over?
Nah, it's fine. It was just for a second. It was just weird. I thought I couldn't get the scores of the Week 4 games. But anyway, Raiders at Colts. The Raiders came and destroyed the Colts. Don't let the 31-24 score fool you. They got a garbage time touchdown, the Colts did, on a very weird play. It was like 4th and I forget how long, but it was long, and Eric Ebron just went up, and it looked like the defender was going to break it up, but he didn't, and he fell, and then it was a long touchdown for the Colts that made it look closer, but this game didn't really feel close at all. I was kind of surprised, and you know how I feel. I love the Colts right now. I just love their team. And
so I heard that T.Y. Hilton wasn't going to play in this game, and that was all I really needed to know. The fact that it was 6.5 points, I was going to take the Raiders. That was like one of my safer picks of the week, just because, not that I disrespect or don't like the Colts, but minus T.Y. Hilton, I had a feeling that this was going to be a good game for the Raiders.
Yeah, and that it was. Going to the Chargers at Dolphins. Miami was Miami, you know.
Bad.
Yeah. They had their first lead of the year, though, for like 5 minutes. You know, that's impressive.
And it's gone.
And it's gone. For a little while, it did look like we were going to be right. We both had the Dolphins plus 16.5. And I even said that if there's a team that's really good at blowing a game like this, it would be the Chargers. And it looked like for a little while that the Dolphins could actually win. And then the Chargers was just like, we were just kidding. We were just playing with you.
Then the second half started. This is the second week in a row the Dolphins have been competitive in the first half, and then they fell. So I got to stop taking them with these large margins, man. I can't trust them anymore.
It's just so hard. Like, the Chargers aren't even like that great of a team right now with all their injuries, and 16.5 looks so appealing. It really, really did. But regardless, yes, the Colts were able. Sorry, not the Colts. The Chargers were able to pull out a 30-10 win there. Redskins at Giants. Dwayne Haskins got thrown straight into the fire, and the Giants won 24-3. Welcome to the NFL, Dwayne Haskins. You're probably the next great Ohio State quarterback. Like I said, they won 24-3. Do you have anything to say about this game?
This is an example of why you don't necessarily throw a young quarterback into the fray when he's not ready. Dude had a rough game. I think he's going to be better. I have a little more faith in him than you do, but, you know, it's not good when you're losing by 3 touchdowns to the G-men.
Oh yeah, but you actually looked at him pre-draft, so you have a better outlook. I mean, I didn't look at almost anything for him, but
no. But your thoughts on Ohio State quarterbacks have, there's more thoughts on that matter.
Yeah, when your best quarterback in the NFL has been like Terrell Pryor, it's not that great. But anyway, next up is Panthers at Texans. Carolina was able to edge out a 16-10 win over the Texans. I didn't actually get to watch this game, I'll be honest with you. Did you see anything from this game?
I saw very little, but just, as far as this game goes, I never know what I'm going to get from the Texans every week. And since I said I wasn't ever going to pick the Panthers again, I should rephrase. As long as Cam Newton is playing, I won't pick them. Kyle Allen's he's a real G, though.
Yeah, man. They did pretty... based on what the highlights I saw, it looked pretty good for them. Buccaneers at Rams. I said it. I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but regardless, I said it on the podcast. I was like, watch out for this game. I'm going to pick the Rams to cover, but I have a weird feeling the Buccaneers are going to win. And I didn't go with my gut feeling, and I'm pissed off about it. I really thought... I even said the Buccaneers were going to win. Not that they... granted, there was a mistake. I made a mistake on the podcast. For some reason, I had the spread at 3.5, so it wasn't as big. But I'm still mad about it because I really felt like the Buccaneers were going to do something weird and win here, and they did. It was a weird score, 55-40. High-flying offense. Jameis Winston with 385 yards. Jared Goff with 517. It was really, really offensively powered game, and almost no defense played besides I mean, there was 4 interceptions. But, yeah, did you see this game?
I saw bits and pieces of it, but I just knew 9.5 was too large to ignore. So I had to jump on the Buccaneers for that. And I guess the Rams just seemed pretty unimpressive at this point of the season. The last couple of games, they haven't looked great. And I guess maybe Bruce Arians really is the quarterback whisperer that we thought he was.
Yeah, might have fixed Jameis after the first few games.
Although he still threw a horrible interception at the end of the game, again.
Just can't have a complete game. He is not allowed. Jameis's famous bakery is always open when there's turnovers on the table. But regardless, Seahawks at Cardinals. The Seahawks won 27-10. It wasn't even really close. I was hoping Russell Wilson would ball out a little bit more, but he didn't really even do that great in this game. Only at 1 touchdown. It was mostly Chris Carson rushing 22 times for 104 yards. But have anything to say about this game?
This was my lock of the week. I felt really good about the Seahawks on the road. I felt like they could win this game by a touchdown easily. And
that they did. Next up, we have Vikings at Bears. The Vikings lost to the Bears 16-6. It wasn't even close. It really didn't feel close at all. It felt like the Vikings weren't able to do anything in this game. Once Dalvin Cook was shut down, you're forcing Kirk Cousins to throw. And forcing Kirk Cousins to throw is not a good thing. even when Mitchell Trubisky got hurt, it wasn't enough for early on. It wasn't enough for Minnesota to be able to outplay Chase Daniels. It's just you really hate to see it, Chief. The Vikings offense just didn't play well in this game. The defense did good enough, I felt like. But, I mean, when the offense line's giving up 6 sacks, Dalvin Cook, your star player who's been carrying your team for, like, the past 3 weeks, is only 14 for 35. It's just not going to work out. I was kind of upset with this game. I thought that the Vikings could have won it, but they just the Bears defense is just too good, man.
16-6, also the same score that the Vikings lost to the Steelers in Super Bowl 9. It's a simple equation, Austin. Is it a big game on the road? And that's all you do is you pick against Kirk Cousins if that's the case, and that's what I did.
and you were smart for it. Next up,
I want to say though, I felt like the Bears maybe not better, but didn't miss a beat with Chase Daniel quarterback. So read into that what you will, depending on how much time he misses, but I think that's very interesting.
It was interesting. Trubisky hasn't been very good so far this year. He's been very inaccurate and stuff. He's just kind of looks like, oh my God, Blake Bortles. He's kind of looks like Blake Bortles with like Jacksonville having like everything built around him, but him just not being good enough. That's what Trubisky has reminded me of this year. But yeah, so they're basically the same team going forward. And honestly, next week I think I'm picking them for my Money League Eliminator Challenge, like for off the podcast. I'm pretty sure I'm taking the Bears over the Raiders, but that's off topic. Anyway, Jaguars at Broncos. I was livid that the Broncos were even given the spread here. I didn't understand. I was trying to process it. I was trying to do the math. I brought out a calculator. I brought out an hibiscus. I was moving the beads. I had no idea who paid Vegas to make Denver favored in this game at any amount of points. I was confused, and you know what? They kept it close. I will say I was a little wrong for thinking that they wouldn't keep it close. I didn't say that. I just thought that the Jaguars should have been favored. But regardless, Jaguars end up pulling out the win, even though they were considered 3.5 point underdogs in this game. And honestly, the Broncos just aren't looking good. They let Leonard Fournette rush all over them for a career high of 225 yards. Almost lost me my fantasy game, which would have pissed me off.
Yeah, that would have been a shame.
Yeah, it was against you. But Minshew's touchdown throw where like 5 guys hit him and he doesn't go down is amazing. Apparently he picked up a fumble and threw it. I didn't see that and was able to complete a pass. Like, it was just, I don't know, man. I really don't know. And then Joe Flacco had that game-sealing interception, which you hate to see. But there's a lot of talk of Denver starting to break up their team, the older guys anyway. There's talks of Emmanuel Sanders going, which if he gets traded, it's a 1-year rental. There's talks of Chris Harris Jr. moving, which has been in talks for a while. And he definitely wants to move on after this, I believe. The more far-fetched ones, I heard they might try trading Von Miller, but that seems more like fan speculation because I don't think they could get rid of Von Miller. And then worst of all, in this game, they lost their promising young guy, Bradley Chubb, to a torn ACL, which the dude is an absolute competitor. I mean, you hate to see it because he could have made it worse for himself. The dude tears his ACL, goes out with what's considered a knee bruise, and then comes back in and plays like the rest of the game, leaves again, and then comes back in again. Dude just didn't want to leave his team out there, and I respect it, but he might have hurt himself a little bit more. But do you have anything to say about this game?
Joe Flacco's now had 2 potential game-winning drives go for nothing because the defense breaks in the last moments. It's not a good team, and they just got worse, and I think not full-blown tank mode, but if we see a couple trades soon, we'll know where they're going. John Elway should be packing his things, man. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, man. They weren't very good. Sunday Night Football was Cowboys at Saints. A really good game, I felt like. Wasn't high scoring than what's typically liked, but I really enjoyed it a lot. The Saints were able to edge out the Cowboys, I believe 13-10, but
12-10.
12-10. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's one of the few times the Cowboys have lost while scoring a touchdown and only lost to field goals. I was pretty happy with this game. What did you think of it?
This was like a carbon copy of the last game they played. I think it was on a Thursday night, but Dallas won last year. This time the Saints win this time. Solid defensive game. Not a whole lot to add other than I like the Saints color rush uniforms.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty solid. And that really wraps it up. I went 5-10 this week, my worst week so far. You went 8-7. That brings our overall...
My best week so far.
Your best week so far. And that brings our overall records. For me, it's 31-32. I fall back under .500 by one game. And you are up to 25-38. So you're trying to crawl back up to .500 as well. We're both in the same boat. But now there's just some NFL stuff to go over. There's been talks for a while that Stephon Diggs was in trade talks. I think the Vikings have been trying to trade him under the radar for a little while, but now he's angry. Now he's angry at the team, and it seems to be coming from him that he wants to be traded. And after being told about these rumors to reporters, he said there's truth in all rumors, or truth to all rumors. I'm sorry. So it sounds like he does at least want to trade or something, but it's really, he's being underused in the Minnesota's offense. You pay two top wide receivers to run the ball 50 times a game. It's just, what was the point? You wasted money on that. So I really do think Stephon Diggs should get a chance somewhere else. Teams that I like, these aren't teams that are being talked about. The teams that are being talked about the most are Patriots. I like the Colts. I really do like the Colts because I feel like T.Y. Hilton's off injured. And I just think that even when he's not, having T.Y. Hilton and Stephon Diggs back-to-back would be a really good combo for the Colts, even though some people don't consider them competitive because they don't have Andrew Luck anymore, but I think that it would be nice to have that number 2 wide receiver that could really help out when T.Y. Hilton's injured. And what else I was considering is that they have the cap space. The Colts have the cap space for that. Another team I would like, which I probably wouldn't want to go because they're not going to be a competitor, but Raiders need a wide receiver. And then also the Chargers. The Chargers are down to 3 healthy wide receivers right now. With, I don't even remember the other 2. It's just Keenan Allen and it's just 2 no-names. They put Dontrell Inman on IR, and then Mike Williams has still been not playing with a back injury. Maybe he's healthy this week. So they have 4 wide receivers that can play and 3 healthy wide receivers. That's not good. That is the definition of not good. But yeah, so I like him to those teams. I don't know about San Diego's. LA's cap situation though. I don't know. I know Raiders could definitely handle it. I don't know if LA could handle Stephon Diggs' contract, but nonetheless, what do you think about these reports of Stephon Diggs wanting out of Minnesota?
Well, things appear to be falling apart in Minnesota quickly. You've got Diggs wanting to be traded. You've got Adam Thielen calling out Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins apologizing, and the coach not doing anything to, if anything, almost stoking the fire. Not good. Things could be in trouble seriously here, and I feel bad for Kirk Cousins because I got nothing against the guy personally, and his contract, good for him for getting the money. But this just shows how stupid the Vikings were to give him this money. He's just not good enough.
Yeah, and they can't move on from him. All of it's guaranteed. If they want to move on from it, they're just going to take a nasty cap hit. Honestly, it's probably why it's appetizing to trade Stephon Diggs right now, because it gives them a little bit more cap room, because they're one of the worst teams for cap going forward. It's just not good for them.
Yep, and I mean, we're what now, 20 games into this experiment, and it's just not good enough? I mean, you've got the rest of this season and next season until you can rid yourself of this player. What would you do in this situation? Honestly, tell me, what would you do if you were the general manager?
There's nothing I can do. I made the mistake of signing him to guaranteed. It's basically I'm stuck with him until his contract is up. So now I'm starting to look at which quarterbacks I like in the next upcoming drafts and probably drafting one really high in the first round and letting him develop behind Kirk Cousins, because it's honestly the best thing to do right now. The best thing to do is, if I'm stuck with this guy, I'm going to develop a guy behind him to take his place after I get rid of him when his contract expires. So that's my ideology. I think they're screwed, and that they got to start planning for the future now because Kirk Cousins is just not a good quarterback.
Certainly not good enough, and Stephon Diggs is on pace to barely get half of what he had last year in terms of receptions and over 200 yards less in terms of receiving yards.
Just not good at all. Do you want to take over for the next thing? It's more your thing.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard, but Earl Thomas called out defensive tackle Brandon Williams for the Baltimore Ravens after their 40-25 loss to the Cleveland Browns. Williams didn't play. I forget what type of injury he had, but apparently Thomas was mad at him for not playing even though he was injured. I'm not sure what that was all about. Thomas was also coming under fire from the media and fans this week because he appeared to pull up on one of Nick Chubb's long touchdown runs. I think it was the long touchdown run. It was. People were saying that he wasn't showing good effort, and Thomas hasn't been that good for the Ravens so far, and he said that he injured his hamstring. So I think that's very interesting. I know that he's kind of a vocal leader and whatnot, but doing that to a guy that's been a stalwart on the Ravens defense, it all seems very interesting. They said things are fine, but just something interesting I thought that brewed from the big loss to the Browns last week.
Yeah, I was unhappy with Earl Thomas in this. Like, I've never really been like the biggest Earl Thomas fan, but I never had anything against Earl Thomas either. But like, I don't know, calling out your teammate that's injured for not pushing himself to play, like Brandon Williams was expected to play this game. That's, I guess, part of the problem. And then he got on the field and he had like a setback. He felt like he couldn't go, and that's why Thomas was mad. But like you said, on that 88-yard touchdown, Earl Thomas gave up at the 50-yard line. Like, it was really, really bad. He did not look like he was putting in the effort. He just kind of let it happen. He was like, okay, well, I guess we're losing anyway, so why even put in the effort? And that pissed me off. That bothered me. If I was a Ravens fan, I would have been literally coming for his head because, like, you got to put in all the effort. Even if you're losing, even if it's a blowout, you don't hang your head down and just let it happen. You don't let them give it to you. Like, it's just, I don't know. I was unhappy with Earl Thomas coming out of this game.
And then last but not least, you had mentioned John Ross, the Bengals deep threat, was put on IR. So much for that breakout season he was having.
Yeah, he was doing really well. I mean, at least in the first couple games anyway. But yeah, that's he's supposedly going to be able to return in 8 weeks if the Bengals do so choose, but we'll have to see.
No, I think it's interesting because I remember the play he got hurt on, and he almost, like, if he had gotten up just a few seconds earlier, he would have stayed on the field, I think, because he did not want to come off, but they forced him off, and then he never came back.
Yeah, man. I do remember that as well. Like, he really wanted to still play. I respect that mentality in players, that they don't want to leave their team hanging, and they really want to help still get the win, even at their own expense. I really respect it.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No, just two wide receivers are expected to come back soon. Tyreek Hill, after suffering a really bad clavicle injury in week 1, he might return this week. He was limited participation in practice on Wednesday and Thursday, so look for Patrick Mahomes just to get a little bit better. And then also A.J. Green should be back, not this week. He's been ruled out, but they're shooting for next week for him. So the Bengals might not be missing John Ross too bad soon.
I'd give Green another week, man. I don't want to risk him getting hurt for nothing.
Honestly, I think he just wants to play because this is a contract year for him. So what I think he's going to want to come back as soon as possible because he's got to play for a contract. He's going to be a Patriot by next year. He going to be the next Patriot, but yeah.
Oh no.
What's oh no?
Greg Zuerlein just missed a game-winning kick.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So with 15 seconds left, the Rams were at the Seahawks like 24, and he just pushed it. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That hurts. That really, really does hurt because I have Greg Zuerlein in fantasy, so I just lost points for that. You hate to see it. You really.
Oh my God! It was just by like a few inches too.
Oof. Just oof. That's all I gotta
30-29 is the final. So you did get the pick right.
Hey, LeMayo.
So you're 1-0 this week, and I'm 0-1.
Hey, we're out here. But yeah, dude. All right. Well, do you have anything else to say on this podcast?
On to Baltimore now. We'll be re-recording tomorrow for the preview.
I don't think I will, but yeah. Anyway, you've been listening to Season 4, Episode 33 of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. If you want to send us an email, we'll leave our email in the description. If you want to interact with us on Twitter, we'll usually live tweet the game, usually tweet about stuff that's going on. You want to check out our SoundCloud, it'll be in the link on YouTube. If you want to check out our SoundCloud from YouTube, it'll be in the link down there on SoundCloud. You know, all that stuff. All the social media links will be in the description below. And everybody, have a good night.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.